I'm thrilled to have you. We have existed, kind of cohabitated in New York City for more than a decade now. How long have you been in practice, out of curiosity?
Yeah, Vince, by the way, thanks for having me on the show. So believe it or not, I've been practicing law about 23 years now,
Wow.
and I started my practice in April 2001. So it's been a while. It doesn't seem that long, but it's been quite some time.
Wow. You know, I got to tell you, I thought
Uh-huh.
you seem like a very young man, and you are a young man, but I did not know 23 years. That's incredible.
Well, thank you, Vince. I really appreciate that. I like where this is starting already. This is a fantastic conversation.
I
It's
would have
it's
thought, I would
getting.
have thought late 30s. Really. You got to tell me
Oh,
the
thank
secret off air. Um,
thank you very much. Mhm. I think the
so
beard is
yeah,
starting to give it away a bit, but
you do both kind of employment compliance work, but also employment defense work. Is that both the day-to-day helping of businesses and advising businesses, but also the litigation end? Is that correct?
yes, that's
Okay.
absolutely right, Vince.
And I love that because it's a rare perspective, because many attorneys choose one or the other, right?
Right.
And it leads to kind of a breaking up of the skill sets, and often I would think incomplete answers, because the compliance attorney who sets everything up,
Mm.
when things go wrong, basically they just say, yeah, I told you not to do that.
Right.
Go hire this guy, right? And you
Yeah.
don't do that. You would say, okay, well, listen, we did everything we can to avoid this, but now
Right.
we have a small problem, and let's work on it. Let's fix it together, right? Is that accurate?
I'd say so. Yeah, I've coughed with that with a little bit of humor. Sometimes I did everything I could to help them avoid it. Sometimes, like the clients don't always follow the steps in place, but a lot of times they do. And I try to look at it, Vince, like if is the client coming from a place of where they maybe dropped the ball? Do they recognize it and want to try to correct things going forward, or are they very hostile and defensive? And I think that the latter, the former approach, it often is better for everyone, right? In terms of not only solving the problem at hand, but also hopefully staving off future problems of discrimination or a lawsuit. So I think it's a good point you raise about a holistic approach. If you can have compliance and defense married together, it's a good way to approach your clients and their needs.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. And I think the way what you're offering is a higher value proposition than some firm that just comes in looking to bill 1,600 an hour once there's a problem, right? It's just
Right.
not going to be the same level of representation. They're not going to know the players. They're not going to have the depth of knowledge about the business. It's not going to be equal to what you're offering, in my opinion.
Sure.
But I guess I say that as a plaintiff's attorney. So I just think people coming from your combined skill set will do a better job in general. So I think brings us to our first topic. When
Sure.
someone brings you, a potential client or a client, an existing client
Mhm.
maybe, brings you a case, a workplace discrimination case or workplace sexual harassment case,
Mhm.
what is generally the first thing you think? How would you address that?
Yeah, it's a great question, Vince. Well, the first thing I think about when they say a client comes to me with a case or a matter is I think about getting to know what happened and getting the big picture, which kind of comes back to what we were just saying. I want to take a look at like, what happened, say, I think when the client came to me. Usually the client comes to me with a specific instance that brings them to my door or to my phone, right? They're a single employee alleging discrimination, whether it's harassment or failed to get due promotions, or maybe it's a wage and hour claim or violation. But I want to see like what are the facts around that situation. But I also want to look at say what is the bigger picture that the client has going on there. So I think about my client, potential client. First, I also think, is this client, how truthful are they and how much are they in the know of what's going on? And so I try to look for cues of that in our conversation, inconsistencies, what are they leaving out? I also take into account like when are they coming to me, right? Are they coming to me right off the bat because employers are complaining about discrimination, right, Vince? Or are they coming to me after a demand letter? A lot of times they come to me after someone like yourself, like this skilled, seasoned plaintiff's attorney, writes a good, solid demand letter, and it brings it to their attention that this is a problem. But if an employer comes to me when the complaint's filed in court and the answer is due in a week, to me, it's like that's insight into what else might be going on with that employer? Is this how they handle situations? Do they sweep things under the rug? Do they ignore problems? Because then when they tell me that they were really on top of everything that's happening, I have to have a little bit of skepticism about that and investigate.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So as a plaintiff's attorney, I often notice a huge difference between a Fortune 500 company and how they might react to something versus, a mom and pop, or even a closely held family corporation that does 5 million, 10 million a year. The
Sure.
spectrum is so different. The Fortune 500, I often see as just pure cost benefit, right?
Right.
They don't care. No one cares. And it's not really their money. And also many of those people probably want to do the right thing, A smaller corporation, a family corporation, something, maybe the allegation is Uncle Stevie used a racial slur in the workplace. And nobody from the family saw it. There's a couple witnesses that it happened, mind you, but nobody from the family saw it. And everybody says, no, Uncle Stevie wouldn't do that. And you get, it's just a different response than a corporation saying, well, there's a decent chance this happened. 3 people said it happened. And we should probably deal with this liability. It's just a very different. Do you find anything like that?
I do, Vince. It's a great question. I think about, pardon me, what's the size of the client coming to me? Now, I'll be honest, I don't get Fortune 100 companies as a solo, solo attorney. I have a couple of associates that work with me and a paralegal, but I'm not a big giant defense firm, so I don't get many Fortune 100 per se, but I do get some clients different sizes. And I find that often a company with a larger, just less at stake, the family mom and pop businesses also have that very much, it's personal for them, right? They often feel, hey, I'm being accused of something I didn't do. And they often say to me off the bat, I want you to know I'm not a racist, I don't see color. And it's that kind of, so I have to say, like a lot of people, I think, generally believe that about themselves, but the challenge is you have to see, are you yourself perhaps maybe blind to certain types of implicit bias or discrimination in the workplace, right? Because it's not just about the person that used a racial slur, it's how did you as a company react? Did you tell the person, okay, we dealt with it, now let's get over it, time to move on? Did you have informed the employee about what their rights are to go forward? Did you properly discipline the person who may have, made those comments? So, but to answer your question about how it's dealt with, like, I do think that bigger companies often it's a cost benefit analysis, right? If they can claim this, like, how much would it cost us as a company to defend this case, right? Might others come forward if they get wind to this? And do we want to just settle quickly and for less money? But yes, smaller companies often there's a combination of the own personal feelings of betrayed by the employee. And mind you, I think the employee often feels the same way. I gave my blood, sweat, and tears to this company. I worked hard, and they just let someone sexually harass me, and this is not right. So it's really about, in that situation, what I find, Vince, is like, let's get down to the facts and the evidence, and let's find out what happened from the employer. Let's do an investigation. Let's gather documents, talk to witnesses. And what I often find is that, so since I did mention how long I've been practicing, I remember TV shows from the 80s where, they have a comedy of what happened, and they would show one person's perspective, and then they blur the screen a little bit and show the other person's accounting of what happened. It was very polar opposite. In each one, the person telling the story is the good guy or good gal, and the other one's the villain, right? So I try to take those sort of that mindset out of the equation. Usually what happens somewhere in the middle, that someone maybe did drop the ball at the company and didn't properly investigate. But often, other times, the employee might be misinterpreting the situation as discriminatory. And there are cases of disgruntled employees who bring, frivolous claims. There are cases of employees that bring valid claims, but maybe their sense of damages is out of whack. They want, like $2 million, and they were the co-check person who was, making minimum wage and got a new job a month later. So that's, I hope that's a sort of a long answer to your question, but short answer is, yeah, there are different approaches that you take with different size companies.